Okay. So for the assignment that we want to go for next, you have to propose two questions for the mid-semester exam. One question is a short answer question, something like 2 marks, and the other question is a long answer question, something like 5 marks. Okay. And it is not just the question that you have to propose, you also have to propose or give the correct answer to that question. Okay. So what is the deadline that you want for this assignment? Is it okay if we keep it on Sunday?
Yes, sir.
So can you keep it like a little later? Because like Monday, Tuesday we have exams. We have a DVT exam on Saturday.
So you do it early. आप आज submit कर दो. This is such a simple assignment.
Okay. Okay.
नहीं? So you submit it earlier. No issues. So we will keep it at Sunday because then we will, we would want to make question papers for you out of it. Now, how will the grading be done? The grading will be done based on a few metrics. The first thing would be, like, have you covered different topics in those two questions or those parts of those two questions and stuff like that? And are your answers correct and in sufficient depth? Okay. So if you give very flimsy questions, you will not get good marks. If you give good questions, that is when you will get good marks. The purpose of this assignment is first that you define your mid-sem exam. Second, it also helps you prepare for the mid-sem exam. Okay. So please submit your assignment by Sunday. I will also announce it on Google Classroom.
Sir,
is that okay?
Sir,
Yes,
regarding the long question, do we have to examine the question like we have been asked in the quizzes itself? Like we had some long questions in quiz itself also. So,
एक बार दोबारा से रिपीट करोगे क्या बोल रहे हो?
Sir, like in quiz also we had some long 5-6 mark questions also. So we have to design questions like that also, like that.
Yeah, you can say that. You have to design long questions, and those long questions have to be something that that should be taking you in depth. It could be a numerical, it could be a theoretical question. I prefer numericals, but the theoretical question is also good enough. You could have multiple parts to that question, which could be like explain multiple things. So you will be able to cover more breadth in that sense. So it's your choice. It's all flexible.
Okay.
Basically, whatever you propose, we'll pick and choose stuff out of that to build your question paper. Okay. Okay. So far so good. What were you doing in the last class?
Sir, just one question, sir.
Yes.
Apart from this class, sir, for the project, what would be the strength of the team, sir? Would
It will be
3 members?
4 members, Ranjit. It will be 3 to 4 members.
Okay. Because we were not able to finalize the number of team members because we are not sure whether it would be 3 or 4.
So 3 is also allowed and 4 is also allowed. You can take it like that. What is important is that every team should have at least one BTech member, one BTech student in it.
Okay, sir. Got it.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Like I should not have any BTech student coming to me and telling me that I do not have sufficient know-how of tool set and our refresher did not go well and all that. So everyone should have a mentor within your team itself.
Okay, sir. Understood. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Anything else? Great. So what were we discussing in the last class?
So DC transfer characteristics of CMOS inverter.
DC transfer characteristics of an
CMOS inverter.
Of a CMOS inverter. Okay. What does this mean?
So for different V in, what will be the V out?
For different values of V in, what will be the V out? And the input is stable and the output is expected to be stable. Am I right?
Yes.
This is something like a bias current simulation. Okay, what will be the current flowing? What will be the uh, state of my system if my Vin is at some particular level? Hmm? Okay, and we saw that at different values of Vn, my system, some devices were in cutoff or linear or saturation and so on, due to which I had a certain kind of a current waveform arising out of it. You remember that? We said that in this thing, the current will be like very high over here, and then at E again, it will be 0. You remember this?
Yes, sir.
And we also said that while this is a V in over V out kind of a curve, we could also have it as a V out over timing kind of a curve. You remember that? That I could actually say that my V in is moving like this. So this is point A, this is point B, this is point C, this is point D, and this is point E. So what happens? The current at A is plotted here, current at B is plotted here, current at C is plotted here, current at D is plotted here, and then current at E is plotted here. And I can get actually the timing waveform for the current also from this curve itself, if I have the timing waveform of the input. Are you able to see this? We discussed this part also.
Yes.
And we also discussed that this is one reason why we want rise time and fall times to be sharp, to be steep. So that we have lesser current flowing through the system, or the lesser duration for which this very high current would flow. You remember this?
Yes, sir.
Now, so let us keep this learning with us. We will pick it up in just a little while when we talk about transient analysis. But we will not talk about the same thing again. We will talk about other aspects of transient analysis. But this is something which you should be able to do for transient analysis also. Okay. Now tell me one thing. In this curve, if we had assumed that beta n is equal to beta p, you remember?
Yes, sir.
And that is why this C or this inflection point was coming at almost like VDD by 2. Now, what would happen if I change, if I make beta n stronger than beta p?
So it will fall down faster.
It will fall down faster. So this is not a time wala curve, na? This is V out by V in wala curve. So what happens to this curve?
I think it will
Shift
shift
a
a bit.
bit.
Yeah,
I mean, it will shift towards left. This curve.
It will shift towards left. What happens if I make beta p is greater than, much greater than beta n?
It will shift towards right.
Shift right, sir.
Yeah. So such curves, such transistors which we have, such inverters or such gates where we have beta n not equal to beta p, you would notice that the inflection point will be on either side of VDD by 2. Okay, these are called skewed gates. There is importance, there is a relevance for these gates. We will look at that a little later in the course, but I just want you to keep that in your mind, park it for yourself, that this is how like this characteristic that we just did can be used to represent skewed gates also. And this V out by V in curve can be used to actually represent any other gate also. Just that because of different beta ratio, your curve could be over here or over here.
Sir,
Are you able to see this?
sir.
Yes.
So what do you mean by the other gates in this?
Like NAND gate, NOR gate, XOR gate, 5-input NAND gate, 2-input NAND gate, 3-input NAND gate. All the various range of gates that you may want to use in your designs later.
So both of them, all these gates will have these kind of characteristics only.
Yeah, all these curves will have V out by V in characteristic. Is it not?
Same. Okay. The trend
No,
will be
not
the same.
Not same, because beta ratio will be different. They will have slightly different.
But the trend would be same, right?
Yeah. So the intent to say is that you will be able to, like, by using exactly the same method as we used for the inverter, you should be able to build transfer characteristics for any other gate also.
So sir, like, can I also say that with the inverter itself, the inverter structure only, if I change the beta ratios in the inverter structure, I can get the different characteristics of the other gates also, right? This is what you're saying. I mean here.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that if you change the beta ratio, you will get different characteristics. What I'm also saying is that by using the same method, you can build characteristics of other gates also, which if they are inverting gates would be very similar to the inverter characteristics. If they're non-inverting gates, the characteristics would be different. But
Okay.
by using the same method, you can arrive at transfer characteristics of any curve.
Like
Any
we
gate.
did, so like we did with the current graph, like intersecting points. Okay. So, but like, what is the relevance of this changing beta ratio? I mean, as a designer, why I'm looking at this? If I'm
Because at
shifting-
times, so as I mentioned, we will cover it later also, but since there is a question, see, at times we may want my inverter to not switch. So next slide we will see. At times, for example, अगर हम इसी में देखें, if you look at this over here, suppose this is the characteristic that we have designed for our inverter. Now what happens? Let V in change by even this much value. V in can now change by this much value, but output will not change. Are you able to see this?
Okay, so sir, but in also this curve itself, it will mean that the PMOS will be in my, like for PMOS to be PMOS and NMOS current to be equal the pull down current. So that means the linear current of NMOS will be sufficient to counter the saturation current of the PMOS.
So for this particular curve, the PMOS is much bigger than the NMOS. Okay,
Oh, yeah,
so
sorry.
the saturation current of the NMOS will be more than easily taken care of by the linear current of the PMOS.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay, so now what has happened? My low noise margin I have increased, but what happened to the high noise margin? Now, if my input was at 1 over here, even a small blip would mean my output will go to 1. So my high noise margin has reduced.
Okay, yeah, that's the relevance of this beta ratio.
Yeah. So if you change the skew ratio, if you change the skewing and the beta ratio, then you will essentially end up changing the noise margins that your gate would have. Okay, we'll just come to that. In the meanwhile, I saw that someone had a question. Faisal, you had a question.
So I understood if beta p is greater than beta n, then the curve is shifting towards right, and vice versa, it is shifting towards left. But like, why is it happening? I'm
यही तो अभी राघव का भी यही सवाल था ना, राघव का भी तो यही सवाल था. If beta p is much greater than beta n, then the saturation current of NMOS is much lesser than even the linear current of PMOS.
Yeah, okay, sir.
So even with the, even though NMOS is trying to sink as much current as it can,
Yes,
the linear current of the PMOS is so high that it kind of does not allow the output capacitance to discharge.
Okay.
Okay, we are not doing transient analysis yet, but what we are saying is that the current of the PMOS in the linear region is so high that NMOS even in saturation cannot sink more current.
Okay.
That is where my characteristics become something like this.
Yes, can you please explain this low noise and high noise?
Yeah, I will just come to that.
Okay.
There's a separate slide for that.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. Vaishnav?
Sir, yes, sir. Sir, so you were saying that with the help of this inverter characteristics, we can build other characteristics like NOR gate and.
No, I said by using the method of how we built the inverter characteristics, we should be able to build characteristics for any other gate also.
Oh, so by that you mean like IDSN equal to IDSP, what we do, even there we are
Exactly.
supposed to make the currents equal. Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Okay. So we're talking about the method, not exactly that inverter वाले को वहाँ chip देंगे.
So just a small follow-up in this only. So for example, when you were saying that we can extend this method to other gates also, they would be looking at the what the current is going in the pull-up network and the pull-down network as a whole, right? And then we will have to apply this kind of characteristics.
Yes.
Okay.
We will talk about pull-up network and pull-down network, and we will have to keep other inputs in such a situation that they do not influence the output. Okay.
I
Yes.
did not. I still didn't understand the last point. That the other gates collapse into equivalent inverter. Can you explain that again?
Yeah. So if there is an inverting gate, let us say a NAND gate. Let us say there is a NAND gate. And my one input is already, let us say 1. This input was 0. This input B was 0. Now what happens? When B goes from 0 to 1, what will happen? If you want to
The
find the
output
transfer,
changes.
if you want to find the transfer characteristics of this gate now, what would you do? You would keep B at different values of voltage. V in you will gradually change. And do you realize that this inverter or this NMOS is just like some on resistance R on, and this PMOS is actually off. So this doesn't even figure into our analysis. It's such a high resistance. So we are essentially looking at IDP and IDN. This can sink as much current because it is fully 1.
How was the other transistor off? That R off which you just explained?
Because the input is 1, so the PMOS is off there.
Okay, yeah, he was off. Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So
Right.
this NAND gate, do you see it is kind of collapsed into a inverter?
Oh, okay, okay, I understand.
So that is what we mean by that statement, nothing else.
So about the skewed gate influencing the characteristics of other gates. So when this collapses into an equivalent inverter, it will also display some skewing that a regular
Yeah,
inverter.
that is what is being talked about over here.
Okay.
So sir, our main job would be to select the inputs so that we get those equivalent kind of structures, right?
Yeah, you can do that. Okay. So now, as we were saying just now, that if I have an inverter which is toggling at say VDD by 2, what am I saying? That on the low side, I have this kind of region where output will not toggle. And on the high side, I have this kind of region where again output will not toggle. It is in this region that I would not know, or in fact, you could say over here, between here and here. It is in this region that I do not know where my output is. Are you able to see this? So this is called as logical high input range and logical low input range. And the output, as we said, will always go to either VDD or ground. So logical low output range and logical high output range. That when the output has risen to, let us say, 80% of VDD, we say it is high. We don't really need it to be full VDD. And this difference between them is called as noise margin. Okay. And if we have a skewed gate, this gate would either go here or here, and because of which noise margin of one side may reduce, noise margin on the other side would increase. Because what would happen? The output would still, high and output low range would still remain the same, but input intermediate range would shift up, let us say like this. So what has happened? The noise margin on the high side has reduced, whereas that on the low side increases. Are you able to see this? Any questions?
So what is the significance of this noise margin?
Okay, we were talking about crosstalk. What will crosstalk do? It will generate some small pulses here and there, some glitches here and there. So you do not want your outputs to keep toggling for every little glitch. So that is what this noise margin prevents. It saves power. So noise will now not bother your circuit. Your outputs will not unnecessarily toggle because of noise.
So my input has to be has to be above this noise margin, or it can be in this noise margin as well.
So the यहाँ पे देखते हैं. So in this case, my input can actually be in this noise margin, and I will still consider it as logical high. That is what the definition of noise margin is. My output will remain here. That is the strength of my gate. But this is additional margin that I'm giving. That even if my input is slightly lower than my output high range, I will still be able to consider that as 1.
Okay, sir. So that if output of one gate is fed into another, the noise cannot and noise get overlapped with the output.
So let us look at it like this. I made a very good output curve over here. I followed this. Okay. Now in between, I had some coupling capacitance coming into picture with another wire, and therefore by the time it reached here, my output fell a little. I was giving an output high of this. So its output was high, but it fell a little. So it came to this level. Now for this particular inverter, I would still consider it as a high signal. So whatever crosstalk this wire introduced into my system, it did not spoil the logic level. I had sufficient noise margin. Noise introduced by this adjacent wire did not change my output.
Okay, sir. Got it, sir.
Okay.
Sir?
Yes.
Okay. Sir, I'm still not getting this point. Like, if we have input greater than that C region, then the output will be low. तो यहाँ पे वो intermediate के ऊपर है अगर हम, then the output will be. I'm confused. I'm a little bit confused in this, sir.
So the second curve on the curve on the right side, or the representation on the right side, is input characteristics, because हम second inverter के नीचे बना रहे हैं ना, उसके लिए वो input कितना आएगा. So दोबारा से सुनो. My first inverter gave the outputs of logical high and logical low, like whatever is drawn.
Yes, sir.
Now in this long path, there was some crosstalk.
Yes, sir.
It added some noise.
Okay.
How much noise can this crosstalk add, or 10 other reasons could be adding noise, है ना?
Yes,
How
sir.
much noise can be added that my second inverter still considers it as 1?
Okay.
So that is my noise margin high.
Okay.
Similarly, on the low side, if I had this first inverter giving an output 0, how much noise can this crosstalk add so that the second inverter will still consider it as 0?
Okay. So, ideally क्या होना चाहिए था?
ऐसा ही होना चाहिए था.
हाँ, तो फिर इसको noise क्यों बोल रहे हैं? बस that is my doubt.
क्योंकि ये noise रास्ते में add हुई ना, I have become insensitive to the noise that got added in the process of some other output reaching my input gate.
Okay. हाँ. Okay. Now it is clear.
I have become insensitive to that noise. That is why it is called noise margin.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Because if more noise would be inserted, then I do not know what my output would be. Okay. Yes, Raghav.
So in this picture itself, the left one is the characteristics of the left output characteristics of the first inverter, and the right one is the inverter of the characteristics of the second inverter, right? So, but like I wanted to ask, for a given inverter, if we this intermediate region, the area, for example, if we consider this area itself, this would be fixed, right? This can only shift up and down.
Yeah. No, not exactly. Depends on technology and voltage of operation.
So because right, as per my current knowledge, like the voltage, but that would be using for different inverters or that would be same. So sir, like even this, if we change the beta ratio, then this either I will get the noise margin increased on the high side or the low side. So one has to compensate on the behalf of other. There will be some loss. So sir, like this region then has to remain constant. But
no, that is an assumption you are making, Raghav. In the previous slide, we simply said that this region will go up or low. I did not really say that this region will remain constant also. For example, look at this curve. In this curve, this region is this big, at least.
Yes, sir.
But look at this curve, the original one. This region is probably smaller. So how would this region change? I do not know. There is no way to clearly tell it based on some model or some, what do you say, analysis. See, if you will actually have to analyze the inverter on your CAD to see exactly kya ho raha hai.
So actually, I was making the deduction based on the fact that, for example, if I'm able to change this area, this transition area, then I can have gains on both the low side on also the high side also.
So
I can
typically,
have increase.
Typically if you skew it, this indeterminate region would probably increase. Because what happens is, so look at this. Either ये slope hai, this goes bad.
Okay.
So
like in that kind of situation in which I gain on both sides, that cannot happen. So
that may not happen.
Yeah.
That you will probably be able to do if you increase the voltage of operation.
Yeah.
Okay.
So generally you are saying, sir, that this beta ratio affects this in that the area increases. So like the degradation has to be equally more amplified than if you would have not been there. But it's a shifting also. It was in shifting also.
I'm not saying that also, Raghav. I simply said I do not know what to say about indeterminate region. It can increase, it can remain constant, it could reduce. It depends on the technology and voltage of operation and what kind of skew you are talking about. That's all that I said.
Okay.
Sir?
Yes.
Sir, so can you please go back to the previous slide, sir, once? Yes, sir. So, sir, in this graph, suppose we are taking VDD by 2 at the center point, and the graph is the same, beta P by beta N equal to 1. So in that, sir, noise margin is something that's that we are giving the flexibility towards the top side and the bottom side, right, sir?
So the top side, we are calling it as noise margin high. The bottom side, we are calling it as noise margin low.
Okay. There is no relevance. We don't call the between area as any kind of noise margin or something.
No.
Right,
you see that is where NMH and NML.
Yes, sir. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. So how to maximize noise margin? Yes, Meher?
Yeah, can you go back to the previous slide, please? Noise margins.
This is also on noise margin only. Tell me.
No, I mean the last one. Yeah. So here on the top we have indicated VDD and on the bottom ground, but according to the inverter characteristics, this top one should indicate when we say logical high input range, we mean that the range of inputs for which the output will be logical high, right?
No, logical low.
Logical low.
Inverter,
So,
Inverter will invert. Logical high input range, it will convert to logical low output range.
So what's this? What's the logic of subtracting your output range from the input range?
So यही तो बताया था ना, देखो, let us say both are identical inverters. ठीक है?
Yeah.
This inverter gives its output based on this output characteristic.
Yeah.
The output, when it starts from here and reaches the input of the second inverter, there is crosstalk in between, which introduces noise.
Okay.
Now the inverter at its receiving input stage considers a much wider range as logic high.
Right.
So what does this mean? That this much of noise, NMH kind of noise, can be accepted from crosstalk or any other reason.
Okay.
That is why it is called as noise margin.
Right.
I'm just clarifying. So I'm just clarifying a statement. Like we have this noise margin, like this much noise we can tolerate, and if the noise is greater than this, then the operation will be hindered. Am I right, sir?
We do not know what the output would be.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So I know these many questions because we want to increase the noise margin. So how do we increase the noise margin?
Sir, we can make beta p equal to beta n, so that our curve goes steep at a point, so that we would have a good noise margin on the top and the bottom.
Yeah. So if beta p is equal to beta n, that is how we can do it. What is now? How do we first? Before that, we need to see what is really the noise margin. Should I start to call noise margin from here until here, or from where to where? So a typical definition that is used is that in this transfer characteristic, the points where I have a unity slope from 0 to 1 and 1 to 0 side, those are the intermediate region is called as the region between that is intermediate region, and I have the remaining part as noise margin. Is that okay? So you will get VOL and VOH from this curve, and VIL and VIH also from this curve. So now I will be able to identify what is the noise margin for this particular gate.
So like in short, we are saying that when both the devices are in saturation, we exclude that area, and then the remaining is noise. Yeah.
Yes, you can say that. Okay. So having looked at this and having also talked about transient analysis a little while back, we understand that DC analysis is what happens to V out if Vin is constant. Transient analysis is what happens to V out if Vin changes over time. And we also discussed already that the same kind of characteristic will stay valid. You just need to time, you just need to put A, B, C, D, E along the time axis. Okay, we already discussed this in the last class also. This is just kind of summarizing it. But when we do that, there are different figures of merit which would also come into picture, and that is what we need to look at. Okay, so what we are saying that at time t equal to t naught, my input is toggling, and my output was VDD at time t less than t naught. How would my output change after time t equal to t naught? And you notice C load starts to figure in now. We already discussed in the last class in response to one of your questions that why did we not consider C load in the transfer characteristics? Because it is the input outputs are not changing, so capacitance is not valid. However, in a transient analysis, we know that V out is changing over time. Therefore, C load starts to figure in. What will be the impact of C load on the current waveforms? Any ideas?
Delay, sir.
current waveforms.
Sir, high current spike.
तो वो तो पहले भी हमने करंट स्पाइक की तरह ही दिखाया था.
Sir, more amount of current would be sinking now.
More amount of current would be sinking. तो कहाँ से, यहाँ से कौन सा करंट बढ़ेगा?
सर PMOS से भी ज्यादा सोर्स होगा और NMOS से भी ज्यादा सिंक होगा. क्योंकि
Why would? Okay, so if I'm transitioning from 0 to 1, my output should be going from 1 to 0. Why would PMOS be sourcing more current now?
Sir, in case of the reverse logic, because now more
No,
time
we're
will be
talking
required to
about
charge
0
the-
to 1 transition only. We're talking about 0 to 1 transition only, abhi.
Okay.
In this slide, we're talking about 0 to 1. You're talking about response to a unit input. Huh? So 0 to 1 transition aapne diya. What is the response to that? So my question is, how will the current change?
So we are talking here about step response, right?
Yes, response to the step input. This step input.
Sir, I think at the edges where this changes, there would be a bulb. I'm like, there would be a U-shaped curve going high, and it's rises, and while fall it will go down.
Abhi we falling pe nahi ja rahe, Vaishnav. We are only looking at input rise.
Then it will go at a bulb at the edge at which the value is 1.
So I'm asking about the current curve.
So maybe the curve will be more wider because there will be more charge stored in the C load. So the I versus T graph will be more wider rather than a peak.
Okay. So what is being said is that because there is a load over here, this would prevent any change in output voltage. This will resist any change in output voltage. It will start to sink its own charge so that output doesn't change. And therefore my delays would increase and therefore this curve would become wider. Is that what you want to say?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And anything else would happen? So see, in the transfer characteristics, we said IDN is equal to IDP. Can we say this here?
No, sir.
Transfer characteristic, this was always the case. Can we say the same thing here?
No, sir.
Why?
So as I can think, so for example, if V have no control V changing as we have applied. So if V is changing, so I know that for this particular time of period, my PMOS will be on, my NMOS will be on. But this V out, I think, is because of C load. Because of this, I think I'm not able to say that what time my PMOS will be in linear or saturation. So these kind of the current, I think I won't be able to say. Sometimes this PMOS will be linear and NMOS will be saturation, and this current is also going. So I mean, sometimes I think that maybe the PMOS could be driving more current to the C load. And
see, let us look at it very simply. Just if we know the output is going to be 0 now, we know that this capacitance has to discharge.
There will be a capacitor current, sir, actually.
So this capacitance, the charge that this capacitor has to be sunk to 0.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So the NMOS will finally sink more charge than the PMOS.
Yeah.
So the NMOS current has to be, or either the duration of the NMOS current or the amount of NMOS current, whatever we talk about, has to be more than the PMOS current.
Yeah, during that transition also, right? Because
so IDS cannot be equal to IDSP. IDSN cannot be equal to IDSP.
Yes, sir.
In fact, it could be something like this only, that there is a PMOS current which also comes, but PMOS current closes. NMOS remains in the saturation region for a little longer. It discharges the capacitor and then enters into the linear region. So this could be, the first curve over here could be IDSP and the second curve could be IDSN. Are you able to see this? So NMOS remained in saturation for a longer period. so that it would sink the charge from C load. This region should be able to give you the charge stored on C load. Are you able to see this?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So the power will definitely increase. It will definitely increase. Yeah.
Because this region is charge given by the PMOS. NMOS took all that charge. Okay. This was the extra charge. So this extra charge represents the charge coming from the capacitor. So if you are just given the current characteristics, you can find out the capacitance that is connected on the load. Are you able to see this?
Yes, I did take you.
Well, the capacitance was initially charged somewhat, or what? How is that charge left out, which the capacitor is just producing afterwards? That I'm not understanding.
So the way to bataya na, the NMOS will continue to remain in saturation region for a longer duration of time. And only when capacitance discharges, it will go into linear region. So then its current would discharge.
सर वो डाउट था कि मतलब T0 से पहले तो PMOS ही चार्ज कर रहा था ना C लोड को.
चार्ज कहाँ कर रहा था? चार्ज करके बैठा हुआ था, खत्म था.
हाँ मतलब
PMOS circuit है. There is no extra current flowing from the. That is why everything started from zero. Only when the transition started to happen, this capacitor started to say discharge a bit. Then PMOS started to sink some current.
Sir, that means at T0 the C load was fully charged up to its capacity.
Yes.
So I was asking that the C load was actually charged via the PMOS only, na?
Long back.
Long back. So the charge was given by the PMOS.
Yes, long back.
Long back. So, sir, the IDN, the one we have shown via the NMOS, that will only that will discharge the charge given by the PMOS only. So
no. Wait. It gave, so let us say at t is equal to minus infinity, much earlier than T0. PMOS had given some current and it was stored as charge on this capacitor. It was already stored now. For example, at your home, you have a water tank on the top of your house.
Yes, sir.
Water comes in the morning, you run the motor and it fills up.
Yes, sir.
That is what had happened. Now during the day, you wanted to take a shower, you turn the tap on. So now what would happen? The tank that had stored some water there would discharge through the tap into the sink. Are you able to see this?
सर ये तो दिख रहा है, पर मतलब जो मुझे डाउट था वो ये था कि जो सी लोड जो चार्ज हुआ था, जो उसके ऊपर जो चार्ज आया था सी लोड पे, वो लॉन्ग बैक वो PMOS के थ्रू आया था, यानी कि PMOS ने इतना चार्ज करा था वो
at that point of time the curves would have been something like this. This must have been the IDSN and this must have been IDSP. And this would have represented the charge stored on the capacitor.
Sir, you said that this extra charge is coming from the capacitor, but see, I mean, our output voltage is...
The extra charge represents charge stored on the capacitor.
Yes.
When the first time charge was getting stored, at that point of time, the curves would have been such that IDSN would have been a smaller curve, and to be able to store that extra charge on the capacitor, IDSP would have been a larger curve.
Okay, but
so more current would have come from the PMOS, it would have gotten stored over here, and now in this particular cycle that we're talking about, this extra charge that was stored in the previous cycle is simply getting discharged.
Okay, sir. Yeah. Got it.
Got it?
Yeah.
Sir,
So-
in the next cycle, sir, then again IDSP should be greater than IDSN. And like area.
If in the next cycle you want the output to go to 1, then yes.
Okay, sir.
So in the same graph only, when you showed the extra region, why in the single you're showing this 2 IDSP and this in different? I mean, this I is the total current, right? I mean,
No. IDSN is the current flowing from the NMOS and IDSP is the current flowing from the PMOS. And in the transfer characteristics, we said they have to be equal. There is no other way.
okay, so like the
Now in the transient characteristics, I'm saying they will be different because there are capacitances which are coming into picture.
yes, sir. In the transient, both this will be different. So, but like in this current curve itself, when this NMOS logic is on, then the current IDSN that would have flown, then what kind of then only this PMOS current would be flowing, right? The charge thing, only the one what the charge has stored, because this PMOS logic is off.
See, what do you mean when I say IDSN equal to IDSP?
So that is when this when we divide to the transient thing, when we
No.
both.
When I say that IDSNT is equal to IDSPT, what I essentially mean is that those curves are identical throughout, across the entire time range. Is it not?
So which figures? Sorry.
IDSNT and IDSPT. When I say that they are equal, what does this mean? This means that for any value of t, they are going to be equal.
So, but how can this be? And only when it transition.
This cannot be the case. मैंने यही inequality बताई है यहाँ पे. Nothing else. Instantaneously, at some points of time, they may become equal.
So, but that was the case with the static analysis also. They were not equal. Only like one was
in a static case. In a static case, you could arrive at a transfer characteristic only when both were equal. You remember we made the curves and we said, okay, this is where my V out would be. V out could not be anywhere else at that point of time. You remember this?
Yeah, yes, yes.
So there was no other way. But in transient characteristics, there are capacitances that are there. So we know that there would be a different kind of current flow.
Okay.
And this extra charge is what represents the charge stored on the capacitor.
Okay.
So Tarun, it is not about longer duration. It is simply that I store some charge on the capacitor and I can discharge it at a different point of time. And the storing of charge or discharging of charge, removing of charge is what indicates that IDSN is not equal to IDSP. Okay. Okay. So now we look at, now because you're talking about transient characteristics, and now we say that there is going to be some capacitors which are going to get charged or discharged or stuff like that. So now we look at different timings that we have talked about already, or you have seen that in the assignment already. So there are different kinds of delays. Propagation delays are, there is a propagation delay from input rising to output falling, propagation delay from input falling to output rising. So this is TPDR, TPDF. You may also be reading it as TP HL or TPLH, something like this. Okay. And average of these two is used to say what is the average propagation delay. Okay. And the rise time and the fall time that you looked at in your assignment also is about the slope of the output, which would depend on the load that we have. Is that okay? These 4 timings, any question? They are simple. You've already done the assignment on that also. Okay. So now there is another set of delays which are called as contamination delays. What do you think contamination delays are? You've done an assignment on inverter. You will not be able to respond on contamination delay based on the inverter. Let us consider a NAND gate. Now, can you think of a contamination delay? The definition appears to be similar to propagation delay. Yes, Shoaib. So this is best case delay. Earliest that my output can toggle. Consider the case of a NAND gate. So we will go into this in more detail in a little while. Now, let us say on the 0 to 1 side, output transitioning from 0 to 1, because A and B are kind of in parallel with each other. So the delays will always be the same. However, if just one of them is toggling, but what happens if both of them toggle together? So if one of them was toggling, either A or toggling or B toggling, this could be my output waveform. But when both toggle together, what happens? I have extra drive strength to charge this capacitor, and therefore my delay. So my input would have been, let us say, input went low here. So my input to output delay now reduces. This lesser delay is called as contamination delay. Okay.
Sir?
Yes.
Can you please explain this last part again?
So, are you able to see that when both A and B are simultaneously driving the output capacitance, it will transition faster?
Yes, sir.
So instead of this transition, I will see a much faster transition on the output.
Okay, so the difference between these two. Okay, now it's clear.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So just like you have PDR and PDF, you have contamination delay rising and contamination delay falling, and an average contamination delay associated with the gate. Why is contamination delay important?
Sir, this determines the speed at which the output switches.
So why am I interested in the shortest delay also? Typically, I should be interested in only the longest delay.
Yes, sir. Even that is my question. I mean, shortest तो मिल जाएगा, but longest का तो हमें देखना पड़ेगा.
Sir, shortest की बात क्यों कर रहे हैं? Why are we talking about shortest delay also? Someone was saying something.
Sir, qualifying the combinational path delay requirements in a synchronous circuit would be.
Yeah, so usually you look at longest delay paths. That is what you call the critical path. So Shoaib, Gagandeep, all of you are saying hold time also, huh? Deepank, yes. So contamination delay is important to validate the hold time paths. You've done flip-flops. What is setup time and hold time of a flip-flop? Hello?
Setup time is the time before which just the range for which the data should remain stable for the clockage, so that the flip-flop should capture that data, and after that clockage, that time is called the hold time. So the range for which the data should again remain stable, so that it perfectly captures the data.
Any other response? So BTech students, you also done the setup and hold times in your ELD and other courses? DC, ELD, BE?
Yes, sir. Setup time of flip-flop is basically, the amount of time we will have to hold our D input constant before the rising clock edge.
And hold time is?
And hold time is the amount of time after the clock edge for which D should be constant.
Yeah. So now do you realize that the contamination delay can mean that your output can now change faster? So your hold time violations can appear if you do not consider contamination delay in your analysis. Therefore, both propagation delay and contamination delay are to be characterized for any gate that you will design in your projects also.
Sir, I still did not understand how it is rising faster in this case. I mean, if A and B are switching together.
So let us say A was 1 initially and B was also 1. Both were 1.
Okay.
So output was 0.
0.
Now let us say only A goes to 0.
Yes.
What would happen? A device of width W, WP, will charge the capacitor.
Yes.
In a different case, only B goes to 0. What would happen? A device of only width W will charge the capacitor.
Right.
Now let us consider a case where both simultaneously go to 0. What would happen?
Both will charge.
Two devices of width W will now charge the capacitor.
Okay.
Two devices charging it up means double the current.
Okay. Yeah.
Means the capacitor will get charged faster.
Okay.
Okay. Raghav?
Yes, sir. So I wanted to ask that I get it that this whole time requirement we are considering contamination delay. But sir, for example, as I can see, like just setup time is much more than the whole time requirements. I mean, but from this, for example, so this when we are saying that whole time requirement contamination delay, I mean, I will always get some kind of delay. So why I'm worrying, why I'm basically modeling it, because I just want this delay to be there. So it will be always be there. So like in calculations, like how it will help me.
So we will look at that in longer paths later, Raghav. But for now, realize that we have, for any design, we have to qualify setup and hold both. Am I right?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yes, sir.
And to be able to analyze the hold paths, I need the fastest delays.
Okay.
So because I have to analyze, that is a sign of requirement, I need the fastest delay also. So as a library designer, you have to characterize both the propagation delay and the contamination delay.
So sir, like for example, when I'm characterizing this whole delay, I will toggle both the inputs A and B at the same time, and I will get what the delay I will get will be my contamination delay. But so then how will I model the other delay? Because then basically
so we will toggle. So there are different kinds of, so if you will open the .lib file of any gate, so there is a format in which the input to output delays are characterized.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in that format, there is an option to add two delays linked between two pins. That A to Y, there is one propagation delay and there is one contamination delay. So you have an option to add both the delays in one file itself. The tools that will do the static timing analysis will take care of both the delays.
No, sir, I'm asking that how I will basically come up with this another delay apart from the contamination delay, because then I can basically, depending upon how much difference I'm getting between the A input and B input toggling, I can get different kind of delays.
Yeah, so I will run 3 simulations. In one simulation, I will toggle only A. I will get A to Y delay. In second simulation, I will toggle only B. I will get B to Y delay. And in the third simulation, I will toggle A and B both, and I will get the A/B to Y delay.
So I'll take an average of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
The max will become the propagation delay. The min will become the contamination delay.
Okay.
है ना? So either I do 3 simulations, or I do make my stimuli in such a way that in one simulation itself I'm able to calculate all 3 of them. That is a choice every designer has. Okay.
So
Yes, Meher?
again, in this example of NAND gate, so I understood that, okay, now 2 devices have charged the capacitor, but now when it has to discharge, right? So again, I mean, if now it's discharging through the NMOS, now how does having 2 NMOS in series help in faster discharging of the capacitor?
So let us look at it. Thank you, because this is something we want to discuss in just a little while also. So thank you for bringing it up now. We can discuss it now itself. Let us say this node had a small capacitance Cx over here. Let us say, can we say this?
Yeah.
Now my input, my output was at 1 initially, and it has to now go to 0.
Yes.
Huh? So what happened? Either of A or B was 0, which has now gone to 1, which means it has to discharge. Now let us first assume that B was 1 already. A has now gone 1. What happens? Because B was already 1, the Cx is already discharged to ground.
Okay.
So there will be 1 delay.
Right.
Now let us say A was 1. A was 1 already and B was 0. So B is going to 1 now. Now what happens? Not just this one has to discharge, the Cx also has to discharge.
Okay.
So this delay will be longer.
Yes.
So one of the propagation delays will be more than the other propagation delay.
So these capacitors like Cx we have faced, it's basically your according to your equivalent models, right? When we study the equivalent models for RC in CMOS, because where is the Cx coming
Raj,
from?
हमने diffusion capacitance, shared diffusion, finger devices, all that. You're talking about extra capacitances on source and drain, no?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is exactly what we're talking about over here.
Okay. Understood.
Okay. Raghav, you have another question?
Yes, sir. Sir, I mean, I'm not able to really get this kind of the delay for this when you're saying that if B is toggle 1 and then it will be longer for that. I'm not able to get it, sir.
So we'll just see. Abhi, we will just look at the delays model. We will just see that. Don't worry.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So now we look at various models of delays. One simple model is you assume that there is some, when the input changes, there is an I average that will flow and the capacitor will discharge. This model will give, I need to find this value of Kn and everything to be able to come up with an accurate delay. Another model could be you say that, okay, there is an effective R on. The device is on, there is an effective R on. The capacitor was at 1 and this discharges through this resistor. So that is another way to model the propagation delay through an inverter. R-on method is usually simpler because R-on estimation for a linear region you can still do much more easily. And instead of calculating the I average from this kind of a curve, you remember this transfer characteristic, to find out I average of this transfer characteristic can be very tricky. So this R-on model is usually a simpler model to work with, also more intuitive actually. Okay. So if you have input transitioning from like in this blue curve from 0 to 1 and then from 1 to 0, the output will transition from 1 to 0 and 0 to 1. And your propagation delay would be measured something like this: equivalent resistance of the NMOS plus equivalent resistance from the PMOS divided by 2. But can you tell me why, this equivalent resistance ka formula hai. Can you tell me why this happens? Who can tell me? We already discussed this in one of the office hours also, but I just want to review with you. Why
Yeah,
does
sir.
this happen?
Coupling
Yeah.
capacitance, because of the
Huh?
coupling. So coupling capacitance between the capacitance because of that.
Coupling capacitance between what?
So I mean the input and the output, right? The gate input with the output, right? It gets
The Miller capacitance.
Yeah.
The Miller capacitance that we talked about, where we said that in analog circuits it would be much more relevant. But you see in digital circuits also we see these notches. Because as the gate input goes from 0 to 1, there is a coupling with source and drain there. The source is ground or VDD. That will not change much. But the other side, which is not driven to VDD or ground, that side is a floating capacitor, so it will see some extra buildup of charge, and this is what you will observe in the transient response. Okay, it can also be understood, in some cases, like when you will talk about memory design and stuff like that. So it will also be understood like that there is an inversion layer here. When the device is on, there is an inversion layer here. And when you turn it off all at once, this charge has to go somewhere. This charge will go to the source or drain region. Half will go to the source, half will go to the drain. And that will appear as this. This is also another way to look at it. This phenomena also happens. Okay, so there are two things that come into picture.
So essentially, essentially CGD and the CGS are getting coupled with the CR, right? Yeah.
Yes, that is what is coming into picture. So if you want to improve the performance, what do you do? हमने अभी देखा, the formula is CL into R. So if we can keep the load capacitance to be small, we would improve the delays. If we can keep the self-loading, because we know that the drain of the NMOS and the PMOS also become a part of load capacitance, to be small, we will get lesser capacitance. If I increase the sizes, what happens? R on and like R on of the PMOS and the NMOS would decrease. So I can improve the delays there. But as I do that, what happens? Abhi humne kaha tha, keep the drain capacitance small. If you increase the device sizes, what happens to the drain capacitances?
Diffusion capacitance increases.
Diffusion capacitance increases. So this is called as self-loading. So you just cannot keep on increasing the size. After some time, you will not see any benefit because the device is loading itself. So you are reducing the R equivalent, but capacitance is also increasing. So it is kind of a self-defeating mechanism after some time. And then what about VDD? The R equivalent seems to be dependent on VDD somewhere. What would you do to VDD? You would want to increase the VDD to reduce delays or decrease VDD to reduce delays?
Sir, increase.
Huh?
So we need to increase supply.
You need to increase the VDD. Why?
Sir, because the current would increase again on increasing the VDD.
Okay. So because current would increase, my overall resistance would reduce.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Raghav, you have a question?
Yes, sir. I have some questions. So, for example, in this overloading thing, because if we increase the sizes too much, this peak that we are seeing, that will basically become too much. Yeah. That is the effect we will be seeing, right? Overloading.
Self-loading, yes.
So this peak will become too much and it will become enlarged over the time axis, right? That you're saying. So effectively.
No, I did not use the word enlarge. Did I use the word enlarge?
So, sir, I mean this maximum peak range would increase, right? So you're saying this.
Maximum peak may increase because of bigger device, more charge in the channel region, yes. But the duration of this peak, I did not comment anything about. Because the devices are bigger, the discharge would also be faster. So even if the peak is higher, it will discharge equally fast.
Okay. So, sir, like what exactly then we're meaning by the overloading thing?
What do you mean by?
overloading. I mean, I get that the
Overloading,
diffusion capacitance will increase, yeah, with the gate
we
difference.
did not use the word overloading. We used the word self-loading.
Yeah, self-loading. Yes, self-loading.
Self-loading is the capacitance of the MOSFET itself coming on the output. See, there is some CD over here.
Yeah, yes, sir, yes, sir.
I know. So
Okay.
this is C out. So the CD is in parallel with C out. As you increase the device size, the CD increases.
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
So effectively C out increases for you.
Yeah.
That is what is being talked about over here. That आपने device को बढ़ाया R-on कम करने के लिए, but CD बढ़ा दिया. R-on जितना कम हुआ पता नहीं, but CD बढ़ गया तो output load increased. So self-loading happened. It kind of cancelled the benefit of improved R-on.
Yes, sir. Yes. And so my other question was that, so how you're modeling this like R-on thing with the like what value, like how will we model this transistor with the R-on? I get it that is a channel resistance, but like
I gave you the complete formula. You use this formula to find out your R-on.
So this other formula?
This one, R equivalent.
Okay. Okay.
है ना?
So I mean the equation was not clear.
There are equations with which you can do all of that. Don't worry. So if you just add something more, you will actually be able to identify full delay through some equations.
Okay, so we have to use these formulas to get the R-on equivalent of NMOS.
Yeah. See, कितना कुछ करना पड़ेगा आपको. Don't worry, I don't give. If I give you such questions which involve these formulae, then I will also give the formulae with it. Okay, don't worry. I don't want you to remember all this crap. These are long channel models, not even valid today.
Okay.
These are, simpler estimations, just to give you an idea. Okay. The intent being that when you look at this formula, you should know that, okay, if I increase the VDD, the delay would reduce. If I reduce this, then the delay would increase, and so on. That kind of estimate you should be able to make out of such formula. Okay. So this is what we're talking about when we're talking about self-loading. As you increase the device size, see, initially the delays improve so quickly, but after some time, because of self-loading, the slope degrades. Finally, the slope is so bad that you are increasing the size of the device. See, 8, 10, 12, you're increasing the size of the device, but the delay is not really changing much. You've increased the size of the device by how much? 50%. How much has the delay changed? Not even 5%.
Sir?
Yes.
It's a bit off topic, but all these optimizations we are doing that about reducing delays and so are we trying to decrease the rise and fall time or the rising and falling propagation delays?
We are more interested in propagation delay. See, rise time and fall time we talked about are important to reduce power.
Okay. Right.
So if you will do this, then power would also reduce. But see, increasing the size also means increase in capacitances. So power badhegi bhi. So when we're talking about delays, you're only talking about delays, abhi.
So I mean, what are the ways of reducing rise and fall times? Because intuitively, the same methods should be applied for that too, right?
Yes. Intuitively, the same methods have to be applied, and you will notice that if you reduce the load capacitance in some way,
right.
So self-loading for the rise and fall time would start to appear much faster, much earlier.
Yes, because faster discharging. Yeah.
Yes, that's it.
Okay.
Sir?
Yes, Raghav?
So can you come back to this discussion when we're discussing the effect of VDD on the delays? So sir, I can see from the equation that the resistance was also proportional to the VDD.
Mm-hmm.
But you said that if I increase the VDD, my delays would decrease.
The resistance was proportional to, inversely proportional to ID also. You notice that?
Okay.
And this has VDD in it again.
Yeah, so
there is this VDD that is getting subtracted also. So if VDD increases, this thing would also reduce. Both complex hai.
So
you have to do numerical analysis to arrive at the answer. Huh?
Okay, so like presently I'm saying that if I increase the VDD, my delays would reduce, right?
Yes. Okay. Similarly, for beta ratio, as you change the beta ratio, the delays there will be a sweet spot where the low to high and high to low delays would both be lower, and you will have a beta ratio range which you would want to keep in your design. Okay, so beta ratio you will see will typically in CMOS 65 also you will want to keep it between 1.5 to 2.75, 2.6, something like that. Okay. We've already discussed this, that we are looking at first order RC response, which is a decaying exponential. We're talking about delay as effective resistance into capacitance, and we're really looking at, essentially average current and all those things. But this is too inaccurate to predict current at any given time, but good enough to predict the RC delays. If we try to look at the model of the delay, Ron, we can say that a device which is k times a unit device size would have R by K, the effective Ron, and Kc as the effective load capacitance. Is this thing clear to you?
So this Kc is the diffusion one, right? Kc times. So C
Kc
would
is
be
the load capacitance because of drain and source region. Okay.
So C would be when we have unit.
Yes.
Okay.
Now what happens with the PMOS? We say that the PMOS, the resistance is already 2R because of mobility constraints. So for the PMOS, the capacitances will move in the same ratio. In fact, the resistance will also move in the same ratio, but final resistance will be not R by K, but 2R by K. Because even in a unit thing, the resistance was 2R. So what essentially we are saying is capacitance is proportional to width, resistance is inversely proportional to width.
Why is unit PMOS? Why does unit PMOS have a resistance to R?
I'm sorry.
What's the reason for unit PMOS having resistance to
R? Because the mobility of the PMOS is the holes is lesser than the mobility of the electrons.
Yeah. Okay.
So see, जो भी हमने अभी तक discuss करा है, we will fall back upon all of that only. No new concept now.
Okay, sir. And all the capacitances we are modeling, that's the combination of your diffusion capacitances, gate to source, gate to drain.
Because they are physical in nature, उसमें electrical कुछ खास आ नहीं रहा है, तो therefore they, for the NMOS and PMOS, they behave the same way. The resistance is because the mobility of the NMOSes is or the mobility of the electrons is better than the mobility of the holes. Therefore, resistance of the PMOS is twice.
Okay.
And we have this factor of 2 because we need to maintain the same beta ratio. Right?
Yeah. So no. So we assumed that mobility of the holes is 1/2 the mobility of the electrons. That is why 2R.
Yes.
Now to get same delays, same rise and fall delays, you make an inverter with the ratio 2:1.
Okay. Yeah.
So that PMOS and NMOS both have same delay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then you can estimate the delay of an inverter by making an equivalent RC model, and you will notice that equivalent delay of a inverter is 6 RC. Can you work it out over here? So we are looking at delay from 0 to 1. What happens? NMOS is on, PMOS is off. So this particular resistance and capacitance completely goes out of picture. We only see this 2C, this 2C, C, C, and R and C. Now this C is between ground and ground. So this also capacitance goes out of picture. This is my final model. 1R and 6C. So the delay of an inverter is 6 RC.
So can you explain this whole thing again?
So do you remember this?
Yeah, this
thing?
one. Yeah.
This MOSFET?
Yeah.
The MOSFET says that there is a gate capacitance, there is source and drain capacitance, and there is a resistance.
Yeah.
I just put the same models for the NMOSs and the PMOSs over here, nothing else.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then what I've done is I've removed the invalid capacitances. Now this part is not in picture, so I've removed this part. And I've come to an equivalent circuit.
Okay, okay.
So
The delay of
where
this
does-
circuit is 6 RC.
Okay, but where did the so we have placed one inverter one after the other, but so for the second inverter, I mean at node Y, we have just included the capacitances.
Yeah. Why do we need to include anything else? It is only the gate load, no?
Okay.
If I have to measure the delay of this particular inverter, the output only acts as load, capacitive load. It's only going to the gate.
Okay, understood. So for load purposes, we only take the cap.
Yeah, you have to take the fan out for considering the load.
Yeah.
So
Yes, Raghav?
So in the PMOS and NMOS, this RC model, you were showing three kind of capacitance, one for the source, the drain, and the gate. But while this, we are showing only the source and the drain capacitances. And the gate, I'm not able to see how is gate model like. Why is not gate being model?
Yeah. You tell me, will there be any current that will flow through the gate?
I mean, no, sir, no.
Then why do I need to show it? The gate is somewhere here. It's here. Let this be here. How does it matter?
So, but for the second stage, the input gate capacitance will be parallel with this, right?
ये दिखाया है ना? यही तो ये दिखाया है.
Okay. Okay.
है ना? Okay. So we get the inverter delay to be 6 RC. Now a little complex gate. So, and you will notice that this RC model is actually reasonably accurate. Look at the SPICE model and a very Shockley model. There are multiple models. So look at different models and you will see this is reasonably accurate. At least for at 50% transition, this is very accurate. So back of the envelope calculations, this method should work fine. Okay. So now what about a 3-input NAND gate? What will you do? Do you realize you will have to size it something like this? Hello?
So to maintain equal propagation delay.
I'm sorry?
Sir, we are sizing it in this way just to maintain equal propagation delay, right?
Yes. We're sizing it like this so that it has an equivalent delay of an inverter only. So now how will the delays move over here? First, are you able to see this is the equivalent inverter delay sizing? So if I make an, if I consider, if I consider that there are these 3 inverters in series, then by having 3, I have resistances of R by 3 over here. Effective resistance is R. So this sizing of 3 means that I have the effective R on equivalent to a unit inverter. Are you able to see this? So now that I have this size as 3, how will my capacitances scale? They will scale something like this. Wherever it was 2, I have 2C. Wherever it was 3, I have 3C. Now again, what will I do? I will remove the redundant capacitances. Which are the redundant capacitances? The capacitances on the input over here, for example, or capacitance between ground and itself, or capacitance between VDD and itself. So those capacitances I will remove. to simplify this this circuit. So what happens? So this is my effective capacitance graph. Which ones get added? 2C, 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 so 6C and 3C. So 9C on the output. The other capacitances that are valid are these 3C capacitances. Are you with me? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Now let us put the resistances also there. So a quick refresh. We know the Elmore's equation that to get propagation delay, I have to do sum of Ri2 source to Ci. So R1 C1 plus R1 plus R2 C2 plus R1 plus R2 plus Rn to Cn. We remember this. We already covered this in last to last class, Elmore's delay. So if we apply this on our equivalent circuit now, what happens? Let us say I have H copies on the output. So my load would be 9 plus 5HC. My resistances are R by 3, R by 3. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Are you with me? So what will be my delay over here now? So TDR, propagation delay for rising. What is the rising condition? One of the NMOSes should be off and two of the PMOSes should be off. That will give me the worst delay. Am I right? So one of the PMOSes was on and I could get the TPDR as 9 plus 5HRC because this is the only path. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Now, what about the falling delay? So falling delay, I have these two capacitors also into picture, which need to be discharged before the output gets discharged. We will apply the Elmore's delay equation and we will see that the falling delay is 12 plus 5HRC. What did I do? I simply set this 3C from R by 3, then this 3C from 2R by 3, then this from R. You see? So answer I get is 12 plus 5HRC. So one thing that is evident is that in a NAND gate, even if I have sized it equivalent to a regular inverter, the rise and fall delays will not be equal. The propagation delays for rise and fall will not be equal. Are you able to see this?
Yes, sir.
Huh? And what about the contamination delay? For the PMOS side, it is very simple. All the three PMOSes have to turn on simultaneously. So the effective resistance would be R by 3. And this would be the fastest that my output would toggle. Are you able to see this? Friends, itna sannata kyun hai?
Yeah.
Okay. So what about the falling contamination delay? What happens there? So falling contamination delay is your homework. You estimate the falling contamination delay, the fastest delay that would get in contamination for the falling case. What would you do? We already discussed that for the 2-input NAND gate. For 3-input NAND gate, I'm giving it to you as homework. So you don't need to submit that homework, but just do it, just to get more clarity for yourself. So how would you calculate the contamination delay for falling?
So if the two transistors below, I mean, if they are already been discharged.
Yes, so
we
these
can
two,
use
you will
that.
already turn them on.
Yeah.
So these capacitances, they will already be out of picture.
Yes, sir.
and then only this will have to discharge. Okay. You will see it will come to be something similar only. Okay.
So before
Yes.
we move ahead, can we go back to when we derived the RC models for PMOS and NMOS? Okay. Yeah. Here exactly. So I mean, can you just go over how we derive this particular model?
Okay. Forget about the term K over here.
Okay.
So if I have MOSFET and I say it is on, what all capacitances and resistances do I have? I have a CD. I have a CG. I have a R on. And I have a CS.
Yes.
So यही मॉडल है देखो K भूल जाओ.
Okay.
So this is CD, CS, and R on.
Right.
ठीक है?
Right. Okay. And what's with the switch we have placed?
Yeah, the switch is the MOS switch. No? If the gate is at 0, the NMOS will not conduct. So this is an open connection then.
Okay.
The drain and the source are not connected. That's all.
And so CD and CS are basically diffusion capacitances of drain and
Diffusion plus overlap plus all that. Yes, all that we discussed.
Yeah, but sir, if we are including the overlap, I mean, you mean gate to drain and gate to source. So what is the gate capacitance we are facing over here?
Gate capacitance, because we did all that MOS capacitance wala cheez na. So everything.
Sir, but we have included that in for our CD and CS, na, that gate to source capacitance.
No, but gate to inversion layer capacitance will be there, na?
Oh yeah, of course.
I know. So why did we cover all that? So it might be sounding like kya hai, solid state devices cover kar rahe hain, but you realize this is all very relevant to us.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Sir, can you go to that slide where there was 2 inverters and the delay was coming out to be 6 RC?
Okay.
Sir, because I think there the one resistance for the PMOS also need to be considered.
Why the PMOS is off now, Debajit?
Sir, for the second inverter.
The second inverter, the resistance is not even coming into picture because I'm just looking at the output capacitance. No, I'm just interested in the capacitance on the output. Now, what happens in its gate? I'm not in the what happens in this R on. It will discharge some other capacitors. It has no link to my capacitors of my system.
Okay. So for the other delay, that is 3 RC, that is coming from the
output load.
Output load of the second inverter, right? Okay.
Input. Okay. So there are two 3 RCs coming. Let us go there only. Otherwise, clear nahi hoga. So there are 2 3 RCs. So this is the self-loading.
Yes, sir.
And this is the loading of the fan out.
From the gate region of the second inverter.
Yes, the fan out.
Okay, sir. Understood. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
So this part we've already done. We've already looked at how the diffusion capacitances reduce when we use shared drain. याद है आपको? Friends, remember this?
Yeah.
So all this 3C, 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 these things will start to change when you will use shared drains and sources. Okay. And अभी तक तो हमने वैसा एग्जांपल लिया जैसा आप पहले बना रहे थे. You were using T cells without any sharing. है ना? Now, if you do the sharing, you will be able to reduce the source and drain capacitances, and therefore you will be able to notice the improvement in performance in your back of the envelope calculations itself. Okay. So you can now bring those two concepts together and simply see how have your delays changed. This kind of a question is also very commonly asked, where we say that which layout is better. I think this was asked to you in your quiz also. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
So we already done this part also when we were discussing the layouts earlier. Now, is it okay if I extend this session by another 4 or 5 minutes? Or are we too much beyond? Okay, silence means stop. So let's stop here. We'll look at the impact of process variations in the next class. This is just 2 or 3 slides, but yeah, we will look at it in the next class. No issues. Then we will go to sizing. Okay.
Sir?
Yes.
Sir, I had one small question regarding noise margin. Sir, can we say that using high VT devices can expand our noise margins?
Using high VT devices can expand the noise margin. Can say that, yes.
So because when we did the inverter, the waveforms were coming out to be a bit smoother in SVT and HVT devices, and in LVT devices, some glitches were coming when you were sizing the PMOS like over 8, 9 like that. That's why.
Yeah, those glitches were coming because what we just discussed. There was lots of charge in the source drain region, which would get dumped into the there was lots of charge in the channel, which would get dumped into the source drain.
Okay. And regarding the noise margin, sir, using high VT device.
See, it depends. High VT devices mean that you will need to operate at a high voltage.
Okay.
So since you're operating at high voltage, the noise margin would increase to get the same delays for that is.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. Rajneesh?
Sir, without this skewing, the noise margin, both the noise margins will be same, the high and the low.
Without the skewing, yes.
So if we do skewing,
if we do not skew, it means if we ensure that the current is same for the NMOS and the PMOS, the noise margins would be equivalent, same.
Yes, sir. And sir, if we do skewing, this both will become unequal.
Yes.
And sir, but this if this increase, sir, then we have to also increase the threshold also, no? So that to turn on this noise margin must also be overcome.
Yeah. So automatically the threshold of the inverter would change. Yes.
So if we want to try,
skewing का मतलब ही है, skewing का मतलब ही तो ये है ना, that the switching will not happen at VDD by 2, it will happen at say 3 VDD by 4 or 2 VDD by 3 or something like that. That is what skewing means. So the threshold change हो रही है, उसी को तो skewing कहते हैं हम.
Okay, sir. So, sir, okay, sir. Okay, sir. Yes, understood. Yes.
है ना? Okay.
So I have one thing to ask, can I?
Yes, Faisal.
So about the intermediate region of the inverter. So what is a good what is a good practice to have a good have a large intermediate region or a smaller intermediate region of an inverter?
So a smaller intermediate region means that you have a good slope between 0 to 1 transition.
Yes, sir.
So that is preferred. Okay. That will also lead to better noise margins.
Okay. And can we say it like if we have a larger intermediate region, then the uncertainty wala part will be more because intermediate region में हमको पता नहीं होता.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Chaliye. All the best, guys. See you on Friday then. So, and I will also announce the assignment on the Google Classroom. Yes, Rahul.
So just a request, can something be done about this video quality? I mean, still very low. I mean, sometimes graphs become difficult to the accesses, and that basically the animations become difficult to grasp from the recordings.
So something that what can be done definitely is that you attend the classes.
Yes, so that we do, but
that you're already doing. I know. So see, I have already set the camera settings at or the recording settings at HD over here.
Okay.
And I have no clue what else to do, really.
Okay. Okay.
So if someone of you gets some inputs, please do let me know. I've already kept the camera settings at HD.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. All the best. Thank you, guys.